So welcome to the Recreation Management in Gerontology program information session. My name is Kathy Longo and I am the field liaison and a faculty advisor in the program. My contact information is listed on this slide. In a few weeks, this recording will be posted on the George Brown website, but if you have questions in the meantime, I recommend you write down my email now so that you can connect with me with any questions. Here's the agenda, things that we're going to cover today. Program overview, the role, admissions requirements. These are all of the things that we're going to cover today. Our program used to be called the Activation Coordinator Gerontology Program, and for the fall 2020, the name is being changed to Recreation Management in Gerontology. It is the same great program, but with a different name. Part of the reason that we changed the name was to keep up with industry requirements and what agencies were telling us that they were looking for. So over the 30 plus years that the program has been in existence and highly recognized in industry, the program has been adapting and changing to meet the needs of what agencies and the industry are looking for. And as the program has changed to meet those requirements, the curriculum has changed and hence the name change as well. The program was established in 1986. One of my main jobs is to find field placements for everyone, and we have partnerships with over 300 agencies across the GTA and extending beyond the GTA. We are well known and well respected. We have a combination of domestic and international students. This year, we've had the privilege of having students from across the world: India, China, the Philippines, Turkey, Iran, Brazil. Many different countries are represented in our classrooms this year, as well as the majority of our students being domestic. So it is a unique program available in Ontario, and as I mentioned, we have people coming literally from all over the world to participate in it. You are trained and will receive a diploma at the end of the 2-year program, and it focuses 100% on working with older adults. It is only offered full-time. It's 4 semesters, and the semesters run from September till December with a winter break, and then start up again January till the end of April. Each semester has 14 weeks. It's taught on-site at the Daphne Cockwell Center and online. We take in approximately 80 students with 40 students per group, and students range widely in age, and we have a huge diversity in our classrooms. So what does a recreation manager do? You are responsible for designing, organizing, and supervising programs designed to stimulate the interests of the elderly. You discuss the 5 domains which are listed there: physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and you are part of a multidisciplinary team. Usually when I ask people if you know what a nurse does, it's a very clear-cut role. What does a personal support worker do? You know that they are the people who are responsible for giving baths and getting people dressed and those types of jobs. If I asked you what does dietary do, you would probably could take an educated guess. But a recreation manager or a recreation staff person is the person who meets the recreational needs of the seniors in whatever facility that they are doing their placement in. So it's after you've eaten, after the nurse has given you your medication, after the PSW has made sure that you're dressed and ready for the day, then the activation person, recreation person steps in and finds out what you're interested in doing and provides you with meaningful, quality programs that have meaning to you as an individual. So some of the things that you would do would be organize special events or outings, small and large group activities, as well as opportunities for one-on-one self-expression. As I mentioned, the program has done an excellent job in terms of keeping up with all of the latest technologies and industry demands. And so this slide shows examples of some of the technology that is used in industry that you learn about in your classes. To come into the program, you need to have an Ontario secondary high school diploma or of equivalent. And grade 12 English can be college or university level with a minimum grade of 65%. If you do not have that, you are required to do an English assessment test prior to being accepted, and there's an additional fee for that. There's also an English placement test that there is no fee for. And it's important to note the difference between the English assessment test and the English placement test. The English assessment test is for people who, for whatever reason, don't have the documentation to confirm that they have the grade 12 English, or they're a mature student and they just don't have access to any kind of documentation, and that's why there's a charge for it. The English placement test, however, is a student that 95% of students coming program will have to take, and that determines whether or not you need to take an additional course in the program called Foundation Skills, or if your English skills are at a college English level. And most people are required to take that test. If you're not sure if you need to take that test, then there is contact information there, a phone number that you can connect with. But the English placement test is really important that you do take it, because it determines whether or not you need to take that foundation skills. If you don't take the test, the college will automatically put you in that class, and there's no point taking an extra class if you don't have to. Another mandatory requirements are that everyone needs to take a 2-step tuberculosis skin test. It has to be current and taken within the last year. Fees are applicable, and that would be whatever your doctor would charge. You would also need to have a clear police check for vulnerable persons, and that also needs to be valid for the entire year that you are in placement. So it would need to be valid until the end of next April. That is something that you do through the college, and information will be mailed and emailed to you about the process for both of these once you've been accepted into the program. It's also important to know that this process can take anywhere from 10 to 14 weeks, unless you are a person who may require fingerprinting for the police check. And if you require fingerprinting, it can take months. So it's really important that you start the process right away. And fingerprinting are people who have a criminal record, or it could be people who are someone who is applying at the same time of someone else with the same name or the same birthday who has a criminal record. And if you have been fingerprinted in the past, you will absolutely be required to have fingerprinting done again. If you cannot meet these criteria, so you cannot pass a clear police check for vulnerable persons, my advice is that you get that cleared up and have that expunged, and that process can also take months. So you should consider deferring coming into the program for a year until you can get that all cleared out. It is a requirement that is set by the Ministry of Long-Term Care and the ministry. It's not a program requirement, so it's really important that you can meet that requirement before you come into the program. If you would like more information specifically around the police checks and about the process, again, you will get that emailed to you once you've been accepted. It's also on the George Brown website, and the link is there. And there is also contact information for Suzette, who's a wonderful lady to work with, and she's very prompt in answering your questions with more details. If you are an international student, you have a couple extra requirements. So in addition to the 2-step TB test, the clear police check for vulnerable persons, you will also require a study permit, and you will also require a valid co-op permit. and a medical exam by a panel physician. And so all of the information, a lot of that information can be found on that link that is listed there. This is an example of some of the classes that you will take in semester 1 that will be online. Introduction to Gerontology, Interpersonal Skills, Rec 1, Alzheimer's, Aging in Place, Replacement, Seminar Field, and English Skills. So these will all be available online for the fall. In semester 2, which is January, another collection of classes that you are required to take. The wonderful thing about this program is how practical it is, and all of the classes that you learn about will be things that you will apply in the field, both as a student and as an employee. Second year, the courses turn to more of a management focus. So come second year, you are taking things like management courses, ethical and professional leadership. You also have the opportunity to take 2 electives that you choose from a list, and field and seminar, which are taken concurrently, continue in year 2. And finally, in your graduating year, you have even more courses that are management focused. The nice thing about this program is that if you want to be a manager, you are given the education and the tools to go out and become a manager. If your priority is to be a frontline worker that's hands-on with the clients, you're given all of that information as well. So right now, your aspiration may not be to become a manager, but if you did decide that that's something that you want in your future, you have all the tools when you graduate. There is this is a breakdown of some of the coursework that you're doing. So there are classes, labs, and placement. They all vary, but they typically run between 8 a.m. and 6 p.m. There is a field component, which is 8 hours a day, and things that you're evaluated on include group work, presentations, being able to facilitate programs, projects for class in the field. There are some essays and reflections. You will also be expected to conduct special events, and you will receive a few certifications when you're in the program as well, and these include your food handlers and cyber seniors mentorships. So for your field experience, we have a 21,000 square foot simulation center at the waterfront campus that is used where you can, here's a photograph of one of our professors working with in one of the simulation centers. Your first year placement is in a retirement home or an active living center, and then your second year placement is in an adult day program, a hospital, or in a long-term care facility. Essentially 3 days a week you are in class, and 2 days a week you have your field placement. You also have what we call a block placement, which is where for 2 weeks you go every day, Monday to Friday, for a field experience. And you do that for 2 weeks so you can get a sense of what happens on the other days of the week that you wouldn't normally be there. Picture of some of our grads with a Professor Molly. To be successful in the program, it's helpful if you have a positive attitude and a commitment to working with older adults, that you are caring, using inclusive approaches and diversity, that you're creative. And if you're not creative, and I can tell you that I'm one of the least creative people in the world, that's the wonderful thing with the internet now and the resources that you will get in class. You can access all these resources and do all kinds of searches on the internet to help with your creativity or lack thereof, like myself. Be professional, active, and be a positive role model when helping others. You need to have strong communication skills from a management and interpersonal perspective, and you need to commit to attend classes to learn theory and practice experiential learning to carry out these skills safety in the field setting. I can't stress enough how important it is to attend classes, whether they are in person or virtually. The students have a much higher success rate when they attend all their classes. Get so much out of them rather than just watching a PowerPoint. Grads work in community and institutional settings that provide services to seniors, and I can tell you that the most jobs that students get is from their field placement experience. And we have a quote there from a grad where she was fortunate enough to be offered positions at both of her field placement opportunities. Why would you want to come into this field? Well, hopefully you have a love for seniors and older adults in general, because everything you will be doing and everything you will be learning will be on how to work with seniors. Also because, as everyone knows, the aging population continues to grow, and that the numbers, the statistics are clear. From 2011 until 2031, the number of seniors in Canada is going to double. We do also have an articulation agreement with Laurentian University. For those of you who are not familiar with Laurentian, it is in the beautiful city of Sudbury. If you would like to get a BA in Gerontology after you graduate from our 2-year diploma, you have the option to take advantage of the articulation agreement, assuming you have a grade point average of 2.8 or higher. The articulation agreement allows you to fast track through a BA in Gerontology. So in 1 calendar year with a full course load from September to September, you could end up with a BA in Gerontology as well. You absolutely do not need to take a BA in Gerontology to find employment. As I mentioned, our program is very well recognized, has been around since 1986, and the education and experience that you get in the program is more than enough to find employment. But for some reason, for some people, for their own reasons, perhaps they want to focus more on policy writing, or they just would like to have a degree, it really is the best deal out there in terms of, in 3 years, you can end up with a diploma and a BA in Gerontology. So that's something to keep in mind if you are interested in that. The other fabulous thing about the articulation agreement is if after you graduate from George Brown with the Recreation Management Diploma, if you don't want to take the BA in Gerontology right away, you can space out how long you take to get your BA. So we have some students who go on and concentrate because they're in the school zone mentally, so they go on and they do it full time. There are others who take 5 years to get the BA in Gerontology from Laurentian. And as of now, there is no timeline specifically for how long you can take to do the Gerontology BA. So like I say, some students are taking 5 years or 6 years to get that. So it's a nice option for anyone who's interested in getting a BA in Gerontology. The other nice thing is if you're not sure if you want to go to university first or come to George Brown first, if you do it the other way around, it takes you 3 years to get your BA in Gerontology from Laurentian, and then 1 year through the fast track through our program. So that takes you 4 years. So it's much more efficient to do it the other way around, where you come to George Brown first. To apply, you go to ontariocolleges.ca. There are some important dates listed below that are conditional and will sometimes change. There is still time. As long as there is space available in our program, you can apply. So some of the dates have passed, but absolutely you are still able to apply. Once you do apply, you'll be asked to make a payment to hold your seat, and then you're in the program. We also have a mandatory orientation that's held the last week of August, which is typically a Tuesday. And at that online orientation, you will find out updated information about your timetable. Once you become a student, you'll receive a StuView account, and that'll be a term you'll be very familiar with once you're registered. And there are timetables posted there. But just in case there are any last minute changes, it's very important that you attend the mandatory orientation in late August. Contact information. So Molly Merrick is the program coordinator, so her contact information is available here. We have an admissions officer, so if you have any questions about the admission process that I haven't covered because I only speak in generalities, you can connect with Scott. Scott's also the person who you can contact if you're wondering why you haven't heard anything about being accepted into the program yet, or where you are on a wait list, or whatever questions you may have around admissions. Maybe you got something that said you're missing documentation. Scott is the person who you can connect with. Accessibility services are available for students who qualify. So if you have any kind of a disability with your learning and you needed some information, accessibility services is who you would connect with to get more information about what that looks like and what the college offers. And we have wonderful, wonderful services in accessibility. Second career is for those individuals who are currently on employment insurance and who meet the criteria to qualify for second career funding. And the contact information and more information about second career in general is available through this George Brown link as well. Financial support for anyone who needs information about OSAP. There is the contact information for OSAP. Okay, now is an opportunity. If anyone has any questions, you are welcome to start chatting them in the chat bubbles, and we'll do our best to answer. Okay, so we have a question. Would you like to type your question to us, please? I'll just go back on the slides slowly so that people can make note of any of the emails or phone numbers for people they might want. Okay. So we've got a couple of questions about what September is going to look like. So the question is, will the program be offered online in the fall, and is there potential for this to be in the winter as well? So our program is designed to be in person. Our placement is designed to be in person. And we have no idea right now when that can potentially happen. So for the fall semester, everything is in preparation to be online, with the hopes that in January it will be in person. But again, we have no way of knowing for sure. It will depend on what public health dictates and what George Brown policies are. So the plan for now is online for the fall, with the hopes that as soon as in-person is able to take place, that it will. So I hope that that answers your question. It will not stay online forever. And as I mentioned, when the opportunity is presented to go in person, that is the preferred method for this course. Okay, so Mohammed, my concern is the field work. How will it be done for the first semester? So we've set field placement up to be distance for our second year students. And for the first year students, for the first semester, we have very fortunate in terms of timeliness. One of our faculty members has been working for the last almost 2 years on a virtual game that is an opportunity for you to walk through the various scenarios as a recreation staff person in a long-term care facility, but through a virtual game. So your placement experience in first semester will be through this game. where you will have your own avatar and you will experience different situations that you would typically experience when you are working in the field, and you learn how to deal with those scenarios as an avatar in a virtual reality kind of game. The other thing that you will do for your field placement is you will also learn during that time all of the practical skills that you need to work in the field. So um, you'll learn all the skills that you need to be a recreation manager or recreation staff person virtually for the fall. I hope that helps. Any more questions? Emery, did you have anything to add to what online placement will look like, or is that?
The one thing to keep in mind is with the hopes of being back on campus in January, our critical dates for January to April will include placement. It'll include a block placement in the early winter, and then another block placement, so meaning in placement more than 2 days. You're going to be there for 2 weeks in the later part of the semester. So although there isn't hands-on for September to December, we have increased that hands-on component for the second semester. So you won't hopefully miss out on that opportunity to have that face-to-face placement.
Like I said earlier, it is a great program. A lot of the placements where I put students, it's grads that work there, it's grads that are managers. I would challenge you for every, couple agencies that you would call, you will definitely find grads working in the activity recreation department. It is unique and it is the program, there's been different certificate programs and other programs that have kind of come and gone at other colleges, and ours has lasted through them all, with the other ones coming and going. And ours is the one that's still around, and ours is the one that people recognize. So I think that's important when you're making a decision in terms of where you want to go to school and what you want to learn. So, what are the challenges when working with senior people? And do you think this pandemic will affect the job market? This pandemic has absolutely already affected the job market. I think with all of the news that's going on, there's much more recognition for the value of what individuals do when they are working with seniors. And jobs will only become more and more plentiful as people become even more aware of what's going on in the senior population. And as I mentioned in that previous slide, the population of seniors is doubling. So the job market is just going to improve. Some of the challenges when working with senior people, I think you need a lot of patience. You need to be a very caring person, a very understanding person. You need to recognize that if a client or a resident forgets your name, that you can't take those kinds of things personally, that the person may have Alzheimer's disease or a form of dementia, and their forgetfulness or their behavior is not something that's being directed at you personally. I think that's probably one of the biggest challenges in working with seniors.
I think another one, just to jump in, Kathy, is students might find a challenge if they don't attend class, because in our classroom we're going over theory, we're going over examples, students are sharing their experiences of what we're talking about, and if students aren't there to actually learn the content and the theory, it becomes overwhelming for those students to then be in placement without that back knowledge. So that's why we really do try as best we can to more than suggest that you attend class, because that's where you're getting that practical theory to then take to the hands-on. They go hand in hand very nicely.
Good questions, Mohammed. Any other questions? It is a great program. It's a very rewarding field. Um, it is a field where when you are working in it, you really feel like you are making a difference in people's lives. The elderly are, for some, they're almost a forgotten group, and it people who come into this program genuinely love seniors and want to make a difference and have huge respect for older adults. And the rewards that you get emotionally from this job, I think, far outweigh any challenges that you may experience. Because you're just your presence, just you're getting to know the clients and the residents in a way that other staff people can. It's very rewarding. So there was a question about salary. So salary ranges are quite significant in this field. Most of our students, when they graduate, are looking at around the $18 to $22 an hour mark. But we do have students I have one student who got a job and right after graduation, and she's making $30 an hour. So the salary range is quite significant depending on where you find employment, whether it's casual, part-time, or full-time, and uh, where you are working will make a big difference as well. So somewhere between the $18 and $30 an hour range is what you can expect. It also depends on your experience before you come into the program as well.
And I also think just another sideline to that is the exposure in the media and how what's happening in our older adult care environments and how that's changing. I think it's only for the better, and it's only going to at some point raise those salaries as well. So I think it's all good news going forward.
So the question from Mohammed was, is there a service at the college to help find jobs? So there is an entire department, Mohammed, that is dedicated to career services. We actually have some of the people from career services come into one of our classes, maybe two of our classes, to help to discuss ways to improve your resume, to improve your interview skills, to help with the portfolio, all of those sorts of things. And then over and above that, career services is available all year for anybody who wants to participate in any of the classes that they offer, any of the workshops that they offer, or if they're looking more for one-on-one assistance to find a job. And like I mentioned earlier, majority of our students, when they find employment, they are working in their placement agencies. Which sectors pay more, like hospitals? Will we be advised on this as far as job assistance? So hospitals do pay a lot. So do public run homes for the aged generally pay higher, as do agencies that are run by the government. So the public health facilities generally pay more. There is a website that you can go to called Charity Village. There's another website. You can go to any of the larger homes like the Riveras and the Chartwells and the Amicas and look at job postings there. Charity Village. You can look for job postings there, and that will help you in your decision too, because they will often post salaries. There was a job posting today on Indeed, for example, where you could find out all kinds of information about a job. If you went onto onto Indeed today, there is a job posting there for a recreation activation person, and I'm pretty sure they're paying $30 or $33 an hour, which is phenomenal. So look everywhere. You do have my contact information and Molly's contact information from this presentation. So if you do have any questions at all as soon as you leave, or in a week from now when you think, oh, I'm not sure if that got answered, or you can certainly email myself or Molly at any time, and we will get back to you to answer your questions. We do hope to see you, even if it's virtually, in the fall. Just a quick question, is it possible to have a part-time job with kids at home? That's a question that we usually get a lot, and you're the only one who can really answer that question. The workload is, I would say, pretty heavy, especially in second year, but a lot of people do work part-time. It just sort of depends on your situation and what you feel you need to do. The classes do run all day, and field placement is an all-day experience. The nice thing about the course, though, is that it is, um, your timetable is fairly set, and especially when you have block placement, you know that those are the days that you need to dedicate to placement, but you're not getting any new assignments during that time. So during those 2 weeks, some people say that they have a little bit more time because they're not getting new assignments and they just pace out their days so that they can do their block placement but also still do their homework in the evening. So it's very personal. We've had, Anne-Marie can vouch, we've had lots of single moms, lots of people with huge amounts of responsibilities, and they manage. And I think there was a question about something about jobs, part-time jobs that would complement. So any job that you can get working with seniors would complement. Um, it doesn't really matter what it is. If you can get a job in the activity department, that would obviously make the most sense. But even if you're working front desk, just to be in a facility so you get some exposure would be helpful. Okay, we will sign off, and again, email if you have any questions. Thanks for joining us.